What is up? What is going on, everybody? I am back with the Seahawks post-game recap. I'm sick. I'm losing my voice, and I am pissed off at this team tremendously. Do me a favor, make me feel better. Hit that like button, and if you're new here, hit subscribe. What a joke of a performance from this defense. Just an absolute disgusting joke that this defense was today. Embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing performance with your season on the line, with a playoff spot on the line. And that's how the defense played. What an absolute embarrassing performance. It's one thing when Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb carve you up, or the Niners with Ayuk and Kittle and Debo and CMC and Purdy carve you up. To allow Mason Rudolph to come in here and go 18 to 24 and average 11.4 yards per attempt, to allow Najee Harris to go over 100 yards. I like Jaylen Warren. I think he's a really underrated player. We've seen the Najee Harris memes in the past with his running style, and to allow them to come in here and, I mean, not even put up a fight. They punted once. This is not a good Steelers offense. They've already fired Matt Canada this year and gone through other things. Now, I will say this. The Steelers offense has played some really tough defenses this year, so it's probably a little bit better than their numbers look, but it's still not a good offense. And to allow them, and I'm not, if you're a Steelers fan, I'm not taking away from your win at all. Congratulations. You guys came in and kicked our butts. So I'm not saying any of this to take away. I would expect the same thing from, a Steelers fan if Seattle did something similar in this game. So I'm not trying to take away from anything here, but just an absolute embarrassing performance. I don't even know what else to say. Like, that could be the recap right there. Done. Absolute joke. Embarrassing. I mean, how many rushing yards did they give up? 200. Gave up over 200 rushing yards, and it was 145 at halftime. Pickens goes for 131. Mason Rudolph, no pressure on him. Now, I do think the running game certainly helped Mason Rudolph. He was able to kind of, take some of the pressure off him, but they still didn't do anything to get pressures or to put the Steelers in any sort of long down distance. I don't think they had one third down I think they had the 1 3rd and like 12, and that's the one Seattle stopped when giving up a 10-yard play to force a punt. The rest were all 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s, and Pittsburgh picked them up, no problem. I can't sit here and blame anything else but the defense. The offense was, it had some moments. The strip sack fumble wasn't good. Like, they weren't perfect, but they put up 23 on a good Steelers defense, and that was in a game where they lost Abe Lucas. They lost Evan Brown. Kenneth Walker had to miss some time. They kind of did enough to win this game, right? Like, the offense was fine. Geno finishes 23 of 33 for 290, 8.8 yards per attempt. Walker averages 5.3 yards per carry. DK goes over 100. And Jigba or JSN, Jigba, JSN has a touchdown. And Noah Fant has a nice game. The offense was fine. Like, there's things to be critical of. They weren't perfect, but if your takeaway is anything but this defense being a joke, then I don't know what to tell you. It's the defense. This defense is horrid. It is horrid. And I don't know if it's talent. I don't know if it's coaching, but I mean, how long we got to put up with this? I mean, this has been for a while now. This defense has just not been good, and it's getting progressively worse. At the beginning of the year, it looked better. They had some nice performances this year. They really dominated Arizona. I know Arizona, but look what we saw today. You gotta cling to something. They did real well against Burrow and the Bengals. They dominated the Giants. Again, I know those aren't necessarily outside the Bengals good offenses, but my gosh, you got to cling to something. And just, and they've just fallen apart. And I know they have some injuries, but is your defense that reliant on Nwosu? And listen, I think not. Sorry, I'm getting over the flu here, and that's another reason I'm angry. I like Uchenna Nwosu. He's a great player, but is your defense just that reliant on him? I mean, no defense should have that much reliance on one guy. Not having Jordan Brooks today, I think clearly hurt. But if that's the case, then my God, give Brooks and Nwosu lifetime contracts, because you shouldn't have that much of a drop off with missing two guys that are, solid but not elite level players. I would say I think both are really good, but they're not like, TJ Watt level guys or anything like that. That they're just solid players, and the defense has just collapsed, 100% collapsed. Since the run defense, especially since Nwosu's been out the last, 10 weeks coming in today, they got the worst run defense in football. And sure as heck, nothing they did today is going to improve that. And even when they no stops in the backfield, everything is minimum 5 yards against this team. I didn't do a post game last week because of Christmas. Even last week, was last week impressive? Was anybody impressed with that win? Now, if they could have, won last week and won this week and turned it into something, then sure, a win is a win, right? Like I'll never turn down wins, but now that they showed now they did what they did this week, they were awful last week. Derrick Henry's corpse ran all over this team. I mean, they have no ability to stop the run whatsoever. The linebackers are terrible. The defensive line's a joke. The safeties, I mean, everybody. I mean, outside of Witherspoon, Leonard Williams, I don't know if there's anybody on this defense I would keep. And you have to point some fingers at the coaching, right? Like, I know a lot of people go, oh, this team's super talented. I don't know how talented the defense is outside of Spoon. I don't know how many blue chippers are actually on this defense. I like Leonard Williams a lot. He's a good player. But the rest of them are all, and Boye Mafe's taken a huge step forward in year two. But at some point, you can't be that bad. Like, even if you are a terrible defense, I mean, just atrocious, even if you're the worst defense talent-wise assembled, you should be better than this. I mean, to let the Steelers come in here, first of all, to let that many Steelers fans in the stadium was embarrassing. I'm not going to tell people what to do. I don't live in Seattle. I'm not at the game, so I can't, get on people for not being there. But I mean, so many terrible towels waving, which was embarrassing enough in a crucial must-win game. And then to let, I just, and maybe I'm just nostalgic and I'm living in the past, but the LOB would have dominated this game. Like, there's no way Mason Rudolph would have come into Seattle and won a game. Wouldn't have even been close. They would have dominated the run, and the Steelers would have done nothing offensively. I don't know. I feel like junk right now. I feel like crap. The season's pretty much over. I know there's still scenarios where they can get it. Are they going to beat Arizona next week? Like, I don't know. I mean, Arizona went on and beat the Eagles today in Philadelphia. I'm not confident this team beats the Cardinals next week. And even then, you're not guaranteed unless the winner of tonight's game loses next week. There is that scenario where if they tie, Seattle would control their own destiny. But who cares? Like, I mean, I do care. I want this team to win, but just awful, just awful. And listen, Pittsburgh might even be a better team than Seattle. It's not so much the loss. I mean, it is, but just the way they lost, just the defense with a pathetic performance. If Pittsburgh had won this game like 19-13 and TJ Watt collected 3 sacks or something and dominated the game, yeah, Pittsburgh's got a good defense. It wouldn't have totally shocked me to have something like that happen. But to allow them to a Steelers run game that's been struggling for the last month, I mean, just no resistance whatsoever. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself a bunch. I apologize, but I mean, no resistance. Like, every run was minimum 5 yards. Then you're in 2nd and 5 and you take the pressure off the quarterback. So, I mean, Mason Rudolph's final numbers look really good, and I'm not taking away from him either. 11.4 yards per attempt is great, but how much of that is the run game setting that up where Rudolph was an easy down and distances to make things happen. So I don't even have anything else to say. I mean, Clinton Hurt needs to go. Clinton Hurt's just terrible. I'm sorry. I can't do it anymore. I try to defend guys. I do, because you guys know me. I'm a pretty positive person, right? I don't just jump in after one game and go fire this person, because it's not realistic and it's not fair, right? guys deserve a chance, but Clint Hurtt's a mess. I mean, it's not a serious defensive coordinator. And I get it's Pete's defense and everything, and Pete deserves blame too, right? Like Pete is not, I'm not blaming Pete at all here. Pete definitely deserves a ton of blame. But Clint Hurtt is just so unimaginative. And it's just, I get it. If you want to argue the talent's not there, I made that argument earlier, and it might not fully be there. But even if it's not, you still have to play better than that. And with your season on the line. And listen, I don't think they played amazing the last 2 weeks against Tennessee and Philly, but the tackling was pretty sound and everything. And today it was just a mess. It was just a mess. And like I said, now that they lose this game, last week's win wasn't very impressive. And truthfully, even the Eagles game at this point, the Eagles look kind of mediocre. They look pretty mediocre. I'm not even convinced that was that great of a win, to be perfectly honest. Listen, this team is pretty mediocre. Nothing that happened today would have changed that at all. This is a mid football team. This is the definition of a 500, 8-8 football team. I know there's 17 games now, but like they are their record. They are 8-8. And you saw it today, right? They're capable of winning some games. They went on the road, beat Tennessee last week, and they're capable of some upsets. They knocked off Philly, almost went to Dallas and won. But they're also capable of today. And another team that's, kind of similar just in terms of mediocre. I think Pittsburgh's, certainly stronger defensively. And with their running game today, stronger offensively. But, you have these dud games. And that's what mediocre football teams do, right? That's what they do. They can beat Philly, compete with Dallas, but then they lose to Pittsburgh. I'm not even that shocked they lost necessarily. I didn't think this was going to be some cakewalk W. But like I said, I expected if Pittsburgh was going to win, TJ Watt was going to go off. Seattle's offense would be sluggish against a pretty good defense. I thought they'd be able to stop the run a little bit better, knowing that Pittsburgh with Mason Rudolph was likely going to have a lot of runs and rely on the run. And just from snap one, and I still see people arguing, well, the defense is tired because the offense can't stay in the field. I don't know anybody made that point today, but that's a joke. This defense from the first possession of the game was terrible. The offense was fine. Like, listen, are there things, I know I'm repeating myself and I'll get going here in a second. Are there things the offense could have been better at? Yeah, of course. Like, they were not, like I said, they weren't perfect, but I can't come away with anything from this game besides being critical of the defense. And I don't know what the heck Pete Carroll was challenging on that play, which cost him a timeout, which they could have used. I know there was a little bit, I had some debate with some people on Twitter about the onside kick. I thought the onside kick was the right call. People were saying to kick it deep because, it would have preserved the 2-minute warning and, better field position. But Pittsburgh was going to get the first downs anyways. You might as well try the onside kick, get the ball back and see what you can do. And who cares, right? If we're going to debate that onside kick, we're arguing semantics. The bottom line is the defense was absolutely atrocious. Onside kick or no onside kick. Who gives a what? Absolutely pathetic performance from the defense. That's all I've got. Just awful. And there needs to be some changes. There needs to be some serious changes. I don't think, unless Pete retires, I don't think that's going to be one of them. And I love Pete. I absolutely love Pete. I think Pete's a great coach. I think he's a great leader, great motivator. But, and we'll see what happens. I'll get into it a little bit after next week. We'll see, where the dominoes fall. But I mean, at the very least, Clint Hurtt's got to be gone. And I don't know, like I know some people don't love Shane Waldron. I thought he was fine today. I put most of this. In fact, I'm sorry, like 99.9% of this today is on the defense. Just a terrible performance. Happy New Year, everybody. Enjoy New Year's Eve. I've gotten 2 hours of sleep the last 2 days, so I'm going to go lay down and get some rest. Love y'all. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe. Happy New Year. Enjoy it. I hope 2023 was great for you all, and I hope 2024 will be better. Again, too, with my rants, if you're a Steelers fan, congratulations. Not trying to take away from your win in the slightest, just making the points about the Seahawks defense and the terrible performance. And like I said, if Seattle did that to the Steelers, I would expect a Steelers fan to have the same kind of rants. Take it easy, everybody. Like I said, Happy New Year. Take care, and I will see you guys all next week with some more Mariners content. Peace. Go Hawks.